Welcome to Fun Facts Daily, your source for just the good stuff. Monday through Friday, we're bringing fun facts and news you can use, all carefully curated to uplift and inform. So give yourself a break, relax, and learn something awesome in just a few minutes every day. Hi everyone, I'm Kyle Wood, and today we're going to be learning all about bronze. But before we get into the facts, let's warm up our brains with a little challenge to see if you can tell fact from fiction. Consider this. When we look at the Olympic podium, obviously gold is the most prized. It's an extremely valuable precious metal, as is silver, but then there's bronze. Now, personally, I would say earning any Olympic medal, gold, silver, or bronze, would be a priceless achievement. But if we're looking at the raw value of the medal itself, what do you think that's worth? Some say that just in terms of the raw metal value, gold and silver are worth hundreds of dollars, but a bronze medal is worth just about enough to buy you a pizza. What do you think? Is the melt value of an Olympic bronze medal really just a couple of dollars? We'll find out at the end of the episode. Now for your word of the day. Our word for today is patina. That's Patina. A patina is a thin layer that forms on the surface of copper and bronze when it's exposed to the air over a long period of time. You've probably seen it before on old statues or rooftops where the metal turns a distinguished green or brown color rather than staying shiny and metallic. This layer is actually a chemical compound, usually copper carbonate, that forms a protective barrier to stop the metal underneath from corroding any further. While rust eats away at iron and destroys it, a bronze patina actually preserves the object, which is why we have bronze artifacts that have survived for thousands of years. The word patina actually comes from a Latin word, patina, which originally meant a shallow dish or pan used for cooking. Over centuries, the meaning shifted from the pan itself to the kind of crust or film that might form on a dish, and eventually, it was applied to the film found on ancient statues. In the world of antiques and art, a natural patina is highly prized because it serves as proof of the object's age and history. Collectors often warn against scrubbing a bronze antique too hard because removing that hard-earned patina can actually lower the value of the piece quite significantly. Time for your daily high five, our top 5 fun facts about bronze. Number 1. The invention of bronze was so revolutionary, an entire era of human history was named after it. Before humans figured out how to create bronze, they were limited to using stone or soft, naturally occurring copper for their tools and weapons. Everything changed around 3300 BCE when ancient smiths discovered that by melting copper and mixing it with a small amount of tin, they could create a super metal that was harder and more durable than anything they'd seen before. This marked the beginning of the Bronze Age, a time when civilization advanced rapidly because farmers had better plowshares and builders had stronger chisels. The new alloy allowed for technical leaps that simply weren't possible with stone or pure copper, leading to the rise of complex urban societies like Mesopotamia and Egypt. The formula was usually about 90% copper and 10% tin. It was a recipe that created a golden-colored metal that could hold a sharp edge and withstand the rigors of battle or construction. It was so valuable that trade routes for tin were established across vast distances, connecting cultures that had never interacted before. The Bronze Age only ended when people figured out how to smelt iron, which was much harder to process but had ores that were easier to find. Number 2. Ancient Greek statues were mostly lost to history because they were made of bronze, which was later melted down. Although we do still see echoes of those statues in ancient Roman works that were stone copies of Greek masterpieces. When we visit museums today, we often see white marble statues representing the art of ancient Greece, but in reality, the Greeks preferred to sculpt their greatest masterpieces in bronze. Sadly, bronze is a highly recyclable material, and over the centuries, many of those magnificent statues were melted down during times of war to make cannons, other weaponry, or coins. This means that the vast majority of original Greek bronze art has vanished from the world forever, leaving us only a tiny fraction of what once existed. But we do still know what a lot of these statues looked like because wealthy Romans were obsessed with Greek culture and commissioned thousands of marble copies of the bronze originals. These Roman stone copies are often what fill our museums today, preserving the poses and designs of those long-lost bronze originals. You can often tell if a marble statue is a copy of an original bronze work because the marble requires extra support struts, like a tree stump next to a leg, to keep it from breaking. The original bronzes were strong enough to stand on their own ankles, but stone is very heavy and also brittle, so it requires some clever engineering tricks by the Roman copyists to embed some extra support. Number 3. Bronze has unique acoustic properties that make it the best metal for creating musical bells. If you've ever heard a large church bell ring or a cymbal crash, you're likely listening to high tin bronze alloys known specifically as bell metal. When you strike most metals, the energy dissipates quickly, resulting in a dull thud or a sound that dies out almost instantly. Bronze, though, has a unique crystal lattice structure that allows the metal to vibrate for a long time, creating a rich, resonant tone that sustains in the air. To get the specific sound, bell makers use a recipe that's much higher in tin content than usual, sometimes up to 20 or 25%. This makes the metal a bit more brittle and harder to work with, but the trade-off is that beautiful, long-lasting musical note. Science has tried to find cheaper substitutes for making bells, but for thousands of years, nothing has been able to beat the sound quality of bronze. Number 4. Unlike steel and iron, bronze is a non-sparking metal, making it a lifesaver in dangerous industrial environments. One of the hidden superpowers of bronze is that when you hit it against a rock or another piece of metal, it doesn't generate a spark. This is incredibly important in industries that deal with flammable gases, oil rigs, or explosive materials where a single tiny spark from a dropped wrench could cause a disaster. While a steel hammer striking a steel pipe creates a shower of hot sparks, a bronze hammer delivers the force without the fire hazard. Because of this unique property, you'll often find special toolkits made entirely of bronze or copper aluminum alloys on submarines, in gunpowder factories, and at fuel processing plants. These tools are much more expensive than regular hardware store tools because of the copper content, but the safety they provide is priceless. It just goes to show that bronze isn't just for ancient history and art, it plays a vital, life-saving role even in our modern world. So you might say we're still kind of in the Bronze Age. And our fifth and final fun fact for today: bronze expands slightly just before it sets, which makes it the perfect medium for casting detailed art. When most liquids freeze into solids, they shrink, but bronze has a peculiar property where it expands a tiny amount right as it cools and solidifies in a mold. This expansion forces the liquid metal into every single tiny crevice and detail of the artist's mold, capturing everything from the texture of the hair to the wrinkles on the face. This allows sculptors to create incredibly lifelike figures that would be almost impossible to carve directly out of stone or wood with the same level of precision. And this is why the lost wax casting technique became the standard for sculpture for thousands of years. An artist could carve a model in wax, encase it in clay, melt the wax out, and pour in the bronze to get a perfect metal replica. Once the bronze cools completely, it does shrink slightly, which helps it pull away from the mold for easier removal. This unique behavior of expansion followed by contraction is kind of a quirk of chemistry, but it's also made for some of the most beautiful art in human history. Now for some news you can use. If you have bronze items in your home, like door handles or decor, that you want to clean without using harsh chemicals, there are many things you have lying around your house that are gentle yet effective. A common recipe involves making a paste using equal parts flour, salt, and vinegar. You just rub the paste onto the bronze, let it sit for 15 minutes, maybe up to half an hour, and then rinse it off with warm water before buffing it dry with a soft cloth. The acid in the vinegar gently breaks down the tarnish, while the salt acts as a very mild abrasive to scrub the surface. The flour really just holds everything together so the mixture stays on the metal rather than dripping off. It's a safe, environmentally friendly, and budget-friendly way to bring back the shine to your bronze items. Of course, remember what I said earlier about those patinas. You don't want to do this if you've got a valuable antique. Finally, the moment you've been waiting for. At the beginning of the episode, I asked, is an Olympic bronze medal really just a couple of dollars? Well, that's a fact. If you melted it down for scrap, an Olympic bronze medal would be worth probably around $5 or $10. Gold medals are mostly silver plated with gold. They're worth about $800. Silver medals are solid silver, worth about $450, but the bronze medal is mostly copper with a little zinc or tin. It has almost no intrinsic financial value, but of course, the glory of winning is absolutely priceless. Now, I hope you enjoyed learning a bit about bronze with me today, and be sure to tune in every weekday for even more fun facts. Fun Facts Daily is an Airwave Media podcast. It was written, recorded, mixed, and edited by me, Kyle Wood. Thanks for sharing a part of your day with me. Be sure to follow Fun Facts Daily on your favorite podcast app so you can keep the good stuff coming your way every day. And if you like the show, please do me a favor and leave a kind rating, review, or just tell your friends about it.